Hey, I'm Shane Herbert. I'm the owner of Royal Stone and Masonry, and I am a hardscaper.
What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 216 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And on today's episode, we have another I Am a Hardscaper episode where we bring on a hardscape business owner and do a deep dive into their hardscaping business. And today, we're joined by Shane of Royal Stone Masonry. You can follow him on Instagram at Royal Stone Masonry 87. They do a lot of amazing inlays and designs, which we'll be talking about more in today's episode. But before we get to today's episode, we want to say a thank you to our sponsors, Cycle CPA. If you need bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know how to hardscape sent you for $200 off there. And InLight Outdoor Lighting. If you aren't already incorporating outdoor lighting into your hardscapes, you should reach out to InLight Outdoor Lighting at InLight Design. That's INLITE on Instagram, and get that conversation started, or follow them for inspiration there. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode with Shane from Royal Stone Masonry. All right, Shane, let's get to know a little bit about you, yourself, how you got started in the industry, and what brought you to where you are today. Feel free to take this wherever you want and start wherever you want. But what is that background of you in this industry?
Yeah, so originally I'm from England, United Kingdom. So I was born and raised there. About 16, we leave school. So, 16, you haven't got a clue what you're doing. So I just followed my family footsteps. Majority of my uncles, my family, they're all in construction. So I went to bricklaying college. So I started off in construction over there, bricklaying. Did that for about 4 years. Did a couple of courses, management courses, and then obviously 2008 happened. So the big recession, it affected us badly over in England too. So that made me lose my job. I lost my apprenticeship. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was in and out of work for about 3 or 4 years. And I rolled around about 2011. And a friend of a friend was working in America, got offered the opportunity on Facebook. And they called me on a Friday, after me giving him my number. Calls me up, he says, "Hey, Shane, I'm interested. You're a bricklayer. Would you like to come and work in America?" And deep down inside, like, I always wanted to leave England. I always wanted to get away, do my own thing, so I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So he booked the tickets. I was out here 3 days later and never really looked back. So that's a crazy, crazy way, got the opportunity. Took the opportunity and just came straight out of here.
We haven't had that story before on this podcast, that's for sure.
Yes. So it's a little bit different because I do listen to your podcast, but it's a lot different. But my boss at the time, when it first came over, he did all asphalt, blacktop driveways and just brick borders. So in England, I'm used to, bricklaying away, bricklaying up. And it was all confusing to me. I'm like, what, you do everything on the ground here? That's crazy. Even all the houses are all made out of wood. Like, it's just insane. So a little bit longer in the story is basically about six years later, just after my son was born, I got a little bit of encouragement. My wife always encouraged me, says, "You know what, Shane, you basically run this company, you do everything by yourself. Why don't you do it, go on your own?" So, I always had, like, I could do it by myself, but I had little dabbles here and there. And I got the opportunity on one project, which was actually my wife's cousin, do his whole driveway in pavers. So it was one Christmas, and my boss was in Florida, so I had the keys to his tools, I had the keys to his truck, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I can do your driveway for you, no problem at all." So I borrowed his equipment. Obviously I got his permission first. Yeah, I borrowed his equipment and I did this driveway with a couple of friends who I knew in the business, and we blasted this whole job out. First of all, the price on the job, I didn't have a clue about pricing. So he told me, "Oh, I got another contractor in. He was going to do it for 14,000. He says maybe you're not licensed, you're not insured. You could probably do this, for like 13,000." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. I'll do it. I'll do it for you." Didn't have a clue what I was doing. Like, so just basically just carried on working as if I was working for my boss. Ripped out the whole driveway, and we did the whole job in the pavers. So anyway, it came to paying for the materials. Materials were like 10,500. I'm like, leaves me nothing. I paid the couple of guys and it left me with about a couple of $100 after the job. I'm like, yeah, this was worth it. But the good thing about that, the neighbor across the street saw us working. He gave me a job. The neighbor across the street from him, he gave me another job. So after all said and done, about 5 jobs later, I was like, wow, this is insane. I made a ton of money from it. So I bought my first truck, my first pickup truck. And then I guess that gave me the incentive to say to myself, you know what? I can definitely do this by myself. So that was the start. That was 2016.
That's so let's go back and your experience in England there.
Yes.
What was very different about what you saw back in England? And I know you're talking about doing vertical structures more so as opposed to on the ground structures, but any reflections back on your time in England and seeing hardscapes on the ground or the vertical structures that you were building and to what you're doing today? Any similarities, differences, or anything like that?
Everything in England's different. It's a European way, even the base, everything, from, now, like in the last couple of years, I've seen the open graded base. I've seen, the geofabric, the geogrid. All that was in England 10, 15 years ago. So they had their own different methods and their own different techniques, but it was like government standard, like like educational standard to do everything this certain way, because it was more of a union where I worked. It was like a township. I worked for the town. It was a union job, so everything had to be inspected. I was working on site, so everything we did, each stage before the houses went up, was inspected. So coming to America and doing everything residential, you could do it whatever way you want. Nobody cares as long as it's done right and correct. That's how I am. I want to make sure it's done right so I can sleep at night. So I don't have to worry about any projects falling down or going wrong. Do it right the first time and then you have no headaches. But I was just amazed at how different, even just coming to America alone, it's just like the roads are massive, the houses are massive, the gardens are massive. Everything's it's just a lot bigger. And it was just a huge learning curve. And I feel like I always had this, idea in my head, this opportunity that, it's, don't want to sound cliche, but living the American dream, that's basically what it is. When you come over here and you see all these, these other people, hundreds of years ago, immigrants that came over here, started a business and became successful. And that's kind of, I always had it at the back of my mind.
That's amazing, man. And any other, I guess, maybe like cultural shocks that you experienced when you came over at first, or was America exactly kind of what you kind of pictured it to be?
Well, in England, America is, the only depictions you get is like Family Guy and Simpsons. So everyone's, taking the Mickey out of the Americans, like, wearing the cowboy hats and going yeehaw and stuff like that. So, that's when you come to a place like Long Island in New York, it's, it's just a beautiful, amazing place, and I'm just so grateful I got the opportunity, and I'm grateful I got the opportunity from, somebody, I still stay in touch with him today. We always butted heads towards the end of my my career with him, but it's a grateful opportunity that I got, and I'm so happy, so happy to be here.
So then that opportunity that you got where you do more on ground now hardscaping, what things were you able to take from that experience now and transfer over to when you start your own business, like installation practices or just being able to talk with the business owner and learn things about business, anything like that?
So that was one good thing I learned from my boss. He was a great salesman. He could sell, ice to the Eskimos. He was so good, honestly. He was an Irish man, so he was very, very good. He had the gift of the gab. He could sell anything. So I was always listening to his conversations with the customers. So the salesman is a huge importance in the business. If you want to be a business operative, you've got to sell, 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 and you've got to make sure that customer, no matter what project, if it's a small walkway, if it's a big project, they're getting the best of the best, and they're getting the best team doing that project. So I always oversaw everything, and that's what I learned from him. From building perspective, he did everything wrong, so I learned how to do everything right. So, but honestly, like, I got more involved on the Instagram. I got more involved on Facebook. I used to go to a lot of the seminars, like the Techo Block, the Cambridge, showcases. Early on, like 2018, that's when I first started getting really involved and wanted to go by myself. So just learning aspects like, oh, this is how you're supposed to do it. This is the way you do it. And it just encouraged me, and it made me think, you know what, that's the way I'm going to move forward with my business, and just give my customers the best quality possible.
Right. What was that jumping off point where you quit your job and you go all in on your business? And what was that catalyst that kind of pushed you to absolutely know that that's the right decision and you're going to go ahead and do that?
It was just getting fed up
Yeah.
getting fed up of making someone else loads and loads of money. He wasn't really paying me the best, but honestly, I think it was my wife. It was my wife and my wife's father just always giving me this small talk, encouragement, just encouraging me, constantly, because my son was born in 2015, and it came up to early 2018, early 20. I was basically at that point, I was working for my boss 8 to 5, and then at 5 o'clock I would go and start a project. And then I'll be on that project till 9 o'clock at night, some nights. And then I'll be doing little small patios. And then on a weekend, I'll just say, look, I can't work weekends. A Saturday and a Sunday, I'll be working, I'll be grinding. And I feel like that gave me a lot of confidence too. I was working nonstop, working for him and then working for myself. And then that was just, making a little bit of money to save up for a saws, wheelbarrows, all the tools, what I needed to go off on my own. I didn't basically just stop and say, look, all right, I'm going to start a business. I kind of, I did it for about a year, 18 months, just to get myself set up to say, you know what, now I've got enough. Now I'm going to go on my own. But also advertising on Facebook, over here we call them weekend warriors. I was a weekend warrior, so, we'll do the patio for half the price of all these companies, but that's basically how I got started. And I was working by myself, so that wasn't the greatest experience.
So then after you start your own business there and you go off on your own, where does the business go from there? Like you mentioned, Facebook ads, getting more and more leads in that way. Does that kind of build on top of itself and build that word of mouth for your business, or how do you continue to get these leads coming in?
Yeah, so early on in 2018, because it was the summer of 2018 when I basically went on my own. I just quit my job and I went on my own. But early on that spring, I was advertising on Facebook, and I was getting a lot of people reaching out to me saying, oh, can you come and give me an estimate and stuff like that. So I got a swimming pool job. And it turned out to be a really, my first like big project. So I met with the customer, designed it with them. And then at that time, because my boss was like hanging on to me and wouldn't let me go. So I actually subcontracted that out to somebody who I knew. And then he did the job. I just designed it all. So because of that situation, that really got me thinking, why am I killing myself at nighttime? Why am I killing myself on the weekends? If I could design these projects and I could just, be there and, take control, and I could basically do what my boss does. I could work for someone and get somebody to work for me. So I subcontracted that one job out. It turned out beautiful, designed it. And I'm still like really, really good friends with that customer. He was my first customer. He gave me the opportunity. He said he liked me. The price was fair. And now I'm always invited to every single barbecue because of that. So it became the good friendship between me and him. So that was a good thing. I'm very down to earth with all my customers. I like, I like to get to know them. They get to know me, and I feel like I always give my customers a sense of comfort as well as doing the job. That's why we get into a lot of designs from my perspective, because you can't just go and say, oh, I'm going to do this design, that design, this design, that design. I feel like as if I put my customers at ease and I tell them that there's nothing to worry about. That's where we're going to go. If they want to design, they want to pay the extra amount for it. But my first early years, it didn't happen like that. I just did it because I had to do it. And the reason why I want to touch base on that was because, as well as advertising on Facebook, and I eventually got into Home Advisor. And I think it was Home Advisor what made me really, really think. I was basically going on all these estimates. There were 4 or 5 other contractors at the time. So the 4 or 5 other contractors, I'm like, these were reputable companies. These were big companies who've been doing it 10, 15 years. And I'm just this kid, coming from another straight off Facebook, didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I kept thinking to myself, you know what? I'm looking through the catalog. I'm looking through, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm like, all these patios are boring. It's just one simple border and just pavers. What's going to separate me from that guy, even though he's got 10, 15 years on me? So my first design perspective, I said to the customer, I says, what would look really nice in here would be like this diamond pattern, this lattice pattern. It looks like an Aladdin carpet. It's kind of cool. And I said, you know what? I'll do that inlay just, while I'm here. And he's like, sure, why not, Shane? Go ahead, do it. So we got this Belgium 5 from Cambridge. It was a cobblestone effect, and we put smooth pavers on the diamond, and we started doing it. And I was so happy. I was so pleased from the design. So as soon as I got that design, I took pictures of it. I pushed it on Facebook. And then just from that design, I was getting so many leads. It was insane. And that gave me so much encouragement to go on my own and move, because then I got so much work coming in. And then it was a learning curve. Then my price became, a little bit higher, and then obviously COVID happened. So that's when I feel like there was no looking back, because it was just so busy, and I wasn't getting these small projects anymore. I was getting these monster projects. And even though I like to try and get honest with the customer. I say, look, how much did that guy charge you? And they're like, well, and I'll look at them. I'm like, come on, tell me. And they'll say, a certain amount. And I'm like, you know what? I'll do it for this amount. I'll take 2,000 off his price. I'll take 3,000 off his. Just so that was when I first started, just so I could get the jobs, get the projects, But yeah, that's pretty much the first couple of years. It was basically faking it until you make it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're I do want to get into your designs, but just going off what you said there, being able to charge a little bit less to build up that portfolio so that you can then use that portfolio to show what you're capable of is definitely one thing that I did when I was just first starting as well, right? Like trying to build that portfolio some way to show and get new leads that want that type of work. And that seems to be really working well for you there.
Yeah, and I feel especially today with Instagram and your own podcasts and all the information out there now is so easy. It's so easy to go on YouTube. It's so easy to go on Instagram and look at how everybody else does their things. But when I guess when you were starting your business, when I was starting, there wasn't that much. It was only just starting out. So I feel like as my business has progressed and how I've got bigger and bigger, it just shows how powerful social media is. And I feel like I do get a lot of my clients, a lot of my customers through social media, and just from showing people how different our company can be, how different we are, because it's not only that, it's in my area there is, I would say, a good 50 contractors, masonry contract, 50 hardscapes. So it's not just that I'm competing with these people. Obviously when I tell somebody a certain price and they're like, wow, you're a lot higher than them, I've got myself to that stage now where I can say, well, look at the designs, look at the way, we do these cuts compared to this contract. It's just, I want to be in that perspective, that field now where I can say, here's my price. If I don't like it, I'm sorry. We're not the company for you.
And you've definitely built up to that. Just looking through your designs over the years and the inlays that you do and all these different things that you're putting into these projects, it's incredible. So then I want to ask you, where did you get the eye for these designs and for these inlays and to get the confidence to throw a half moon and some stars into a patio there?
So I feel like one of my first ever showcases was Techo Block in 2018. And I was just, because on the island is Cambridge, it's Nicolak. They're the two main manufacturers. So this was a time again when I started looking on Instagram and I was looking for these unique designs to separate myself from the competition. And I was just blown away by all these different inlays and these different designs just at the showcase. And Paver Pete, he's a great guy. I actually got to speak to him, and he just talking about these designs, and I was like, it just got my brain thinking. So from that perspective, going further, I would plan the night before basically on how I'm going to put this inlay into a patio, and I would just like, what, this is only 8 cuts, and all it is the pavers on a 45, and it would just think. And as I gone from that, like every single time, I would just plan it out almost like the day before. I don't really try to think about it and overthink too much because I'm a perfectionist. So I try and just least amount of planning, and then it's basically as we're doing it, we're slightly improving on in each design. I will sketch everything out on a piece of paper. I have so many ideas in this folder of mine over here, so many drawings from a butterfly, what we did. That was just because it was a simple request from the customer. And the price of the design was already into the project, and they always wanted she didn't really know what she wanted until the last minute. So she wanted a butterfly. So that was a fun design as well. So again, in my mind, I look at silhouettes. So silhouettes of a butterfly, silhouettes of a moon and stars. I will look at them images, and then I'll transfer them images down onto a piece of paper, and then I'll just draw it out how I'm going to elaborate a 3-piece ledge stone, like from Cambridge, or a 4.5 by 9, with a border, and then I'll just play with it, on paper. And then I'll get the materials, and then we'll just have everything laid out, all the pavers laid out, and then me and my head mason will dry stack all the pavers out on top of the patio. And then I'll look at it, now I'm getting a little bit fancier now because I get my drone up and I start looking at it from the drone. But early days, it was just, just looking at it on the floor, dry stacking the pavers out. It's like, turn it a little bit this way. And, but it's just, it started off really small. And now, like you said, it's gone to moon and stars. And it's just, I created a monster myself. So I created a lot of pressure. So everyone's looking at me for my next design. But I feel like I always amaze myself, and I have a great set of guys who love the frill, and they love this design aspect, and they're so passionate about it too. And they can see the passion from me, and it goes into my guys. And every time I come up with a design, they love it, and I love it too. And I get so excited.
You work hard to build a successful business, and because of this, it is important to work with companies that you can trust, rely on, and whose missions are to give you the highest quality product and customer support. Low voltage outdoor lighting is one of the easiest ways for you to grow your business and increase revenue. Using lighting can make you more profit, add that wow factor, and make your business stand out. Whether you are already using outdoor lighting in your hardscape projects or not, it's time you check out InLight Outdoor Lighting. As a professional hardscaper, we know that you need efficient installs, less callbacks, and premium products to have a successful and growing business. InLight's got you covered. They've created some of the most premium and unique lighting on the market to make your project stand out and wow your clients with their unmatched light quality. It gets better. InLight has an unbeatable customer support team, provides many educational resources like online and in-person training, installation videos, and so much more. They care about your business growth and will be with you every step of the way. For more information on how InLight can help you grow your business, check them out on Instagram at InLight Design. That's at INLITE Design on Instagram. DM them to find out how to put more money in your pocket this season. Now back to the podcast. So then how do you pitch to a client to do a specific inlay? Or do you find that more and more you're getting clients coming to you and asking for a butterfly inlay or something like that?
So definitely now I am getting a lot of clients who are coming to me and want to design. I'm meeting with a client on Thursday. They want, they saw the stars. So they want the stars throughout the patio. So now after doing that project, that project was already, that was designed. This guy, I knew this guy for a long, long time. And his wife, basically the moon and stars, his wife saw me do the sunrise on one project coming out of the stairs. So she loved the sunrise, and that moon and stars project was a driveway. And this guy actually owned a masonry yard close to me. So he's a mason himself. He has guys who works for him. So he actually picked me to come and do his project and do a specific design. So now I'm starting to attract a lot of people, even if they're in the business themselves, to do these designs, because there's nobody near me who can do these designs. There's other people in the country who I have a lot of respect and for, who do crazy designs, and I just love a company who does different designs, and it makes me, raise my level and get more crazier too. But yeah, I do have a lot of customers now who reach out to us. At the beginning, it was more or less I was doing a few of these designs for free. And because I was tired of, I was with Home Advisor for a year, and I was like, this advertisement was crazy. I was spending this amount of money on advertising, and it wasn't really coming in. So I did the one job with the Celtic knot. That was like my first baby, my first crazy design. And we did the Celtic knot, and that took us like 2-3 hours to cut in and do. And as soon as I did that job, that was it. Every single job, that advertisement came in, that attracted, something different. These customers saying, "Oh my God, I haven't seen that before. How do you even do that?" And then that's just got me my foot in the door straight away. Before I even said who I am, what I do, or even when I go to a house, I'll show them like pictures. I have a little iPad with them. Oh, this is some of the work we do. And they're like, every single time they're blown away. So that gave me a little bit of an advantage straight away compared to the next contractor or the next guy. So, but ever since then, all my designs got a little bit more intense, more detailed. So I've definitely had to include that in the price because I think it was the compass rose we did. We did the compass rose on one job. It was in front of this beautiful fireplace, this Berkshire fireplace from Cambridge, and they wanted a compass rose. So he's getting all these, pricing and stuff. So I came in, I gave him a price, but I still lost 2 days because the amount of cuts we did on the bricks, because I wanted everything to be perfect. And it was just, it took 2 days longer than expected, but everything's a learning curve.
Right.
So you learn by your mistakes. So now I know next time I got to charge a little bit extra, and, that's nothing's perfect.
Yeah, let's talk about that since we're on the subject of charging for these. So you get to a point where there's enough demand in your market for your designs and getting these inlays done that you can now charge for essentially what you're worth for them. But let's say somebody comes to you and wants something more intricate than you've ever done before. How do you go about breaking that down and making sure that you're going to charge what you're essentially worth for it? Do you now kind of picture it in your mind how long it's going to take you and then add a little bit of buffer room in between, or how do you do that?
I started to break everything down by labor, materials, overhead as well, because overhead's important, because now I've got machines, trucks, and trailers and payments, and just break it down like that, and then times it by 0.5 margin, and that's the outcome. Gotcha. So I always make sure, especially on designs, I give myself 2 days extra worth of labor. It all depends on the design. Even though on the project, because I run with a crew of six guys, 7 including me. So I'm just focused on quality over quantity all the time. So especially when a customer is specifically asking for a design, I'll break it down just like that. Because there's a lot of people who do square foot prices. If it's a regular patio around here, I will throw a square foot price out there because I know my numbers and I know my profit margin on square foot. I know how much pavers we can put down in a day, depending on the type of year, because, in the winter, a little bit slower, with the cold, you're battling the frost. In the summer, you're a little bit slower too, because you're battling the heat. So I know my square foot prices, but when it comes to the designs, I break everything down to, cost of labor, materials, and just like that in overhead.
I've always liked this business model of creating something that not a lot of people are doing, and if they are doing it, they're not in your direct market, they're not your direct competitor, like these incredible inlays that you're doing, because you kind of create like if you're the only one doing something in a specific market, you're almost like creating your own market within that market where you're the only one that fulfills that demand, right? So people will seek you out for these designs. And just talking to you off air before we kind of hopped on, it seems that your schedule's full. You're still getting lots of calls during this time,
Yeah.
which is incredible and an incredible testament to what you've done so far for your business there.
Yeah. Thank you. It is. It's definitely, like I said, we just want to be different, and we just want to be. We don't want to do. You want to get Royal Stone. So I want to create like a legacy within the business where every time you walk past the patio or you walk past a job, oh, Royal Stone did that. That's Royal Stone's job. And that's what it's come, because the first year, 2018, I didn't have a clue I was going to get this big. It's just, each day, confidence grows. You just keep hitting the putting the pavers down, just keep going and keep going. And then it's just every single job we've done, you've seen the progress of our jobs. We started off with small inlays, and like you said, we've gone to moon and stars. So it's just, we just keep raising the level and raising the bar. And that's what I love about this business, because it's not only just me. I see a lot of other contractors now, not exactly in my area, but who are doing crazy stuff. Like, I want to shout out to a good friend of mine, Dan Preston, Hardscapes. He does like guitars and stuff like that, and I absolutely love that stuff. And then just this last year, I started following a group of guys. I think they're in your neck of the woods. Is NRX Landscapers.
Yep.
I absolutely love them, what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're and I listened to their podcast as well, and it's just so funny, because we have a lot of similarity. We will watch our companies burn to the ground just so we can put a nice design out there.
Yeah.
We'll lose so much money on a job just to put a nice design out there, just to show people, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. But that was early days for me. Now I've learned my lesson. Now I've priced everything out accordingly. Don't get me wrong, I still lose money, but that's part of business.
Right. Absolutely. And getting into, let's say a client reaches out to you, whether that's through email, through a phone call, whatever it might be. What kind of questions are you asking them, or what are you including in the conversation to know if they might be a Royal Stone client and fit into what you're trying to do?
I will go on every single estimate.
Oh, yeah?
I don't care if they want a walkway, they want a stoop. I don't care. I'll go on every single estimate, because every single estimate, even if they want some little repair, a little small, that job in the future will turn into a bigger job.
Right.
And that bigger job will turn into a referral. So I will not turn anyone down. So there's people out there who try and qualify their clients before they even go out on the estimate. I don't, because I like to just, okay, what are you looking for? Swimming pool. Okay, that's great. I'll book the time, go to the estimate, and then I get to see the person and they get to see me. And I like that in-person, one-on-one, that personal experience. They get to know me. They get to know the passionate behind me and see what our company can deliver. And that's what I love. I will never turn anyone down.
Interesting. So I want to dive into that a bit. How has that gone for you in terms of the percentage of clients that you get there and you realize like right away it's not a project for you, versus the percentage of projects where it's like, yeah, that could be a Royal Stone client. Let's prepare a quote for them in that.
So don't get me wrong. There is estimates what I do go on, and if I don't want the job and I feel like the job is too big for me, or it's not the right job for Royal Stone, I will outprice myself on the job.
Gotcha.
So they'll be like, this guy's insane. Or if I'm, the customer's nice, because, not all customers, understand how hard we work and how many times, understand that. So they just think we're greedy, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I'll just be polite and say, look, my company's, we haven't got the time to do this. It's going to cost you a lot more than you expect. Maybe there's a company out there for you, what would fit your desire for this patio. And then, if it's early on in the season, and, like we all get them little butterflies, like, oh, the phone's not ringing, it's slow, it's crazy. And I'm sure like a lot of people experienced that this year, because I did it first, and I was thinking like, what's going on? But then the phone does start ringing. But I will, like, maybe lower my price down a little bit, because I still got, I no matter what, on days I'm not working, or the overhead, the business is, is still eating away. Even today we're not working, it's still eating away. So I want to make sure I've always got work booked out, no matter what, as long as it pays the bills. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I wonder if like where your leads are coming from today, that they kind of recognize that almost like your clients are pre-qualifying themselves before they reach out to you. Like you won't get somebody calling out to you to do, let's say, like a drainage job if they look at your Instagram and they see that you're doing these beautiful inlays and pool patios and things like that, right?
Yeah, so I feel like Google. I have a Google page. I got 5-star reviews, and I have all my work on the Google page. So I feel like that already qualifies a lot of customers and themselves, because they'll see the pictures and they'll be like, "Oh my God, this guy, he looks expensive," So that's kind of image what I am drawing. But don't get me wrong, there is clients out there who don't know. So, but I feel like I've already got that presence on my Google page. I got the presence on Instagram. So that's the image I'm trying to put out there. That's the image through all the reviews, because I always make sure that all my clients, they leave me a review, and I feel like them reviews is the best thing for any type of hardscaper, any type of business. If they can get reviews on Google, I feel their company can go a long way. I really do.
So did you make a push early on to get those Google reviews, or have you always kind of done that?
I've always kind of done that, because that's, it's like, when something goes wrong in the house, the first thing you do, you type it on Google.
Yeah.
I need a plumber, type it on Google.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's the first thing what everybody goes to in this generation. We go straight on Google, we look for, and then that's like, I don't think it's Home Advisor used to be, Angie's List, all them, they used to be the go-to, but the first thing now is so easy and simple. Go straight on Google, and that's the way to go forward.
I just want to take a break from today's episode to talk about our sponsor, Cycle CPA. You may have a CRM or project management software in place, but what data are you using to ensure your estimating is accurate? Having a proper accounting setup and accurate bookkeeping done is key to understanding overhead expenses and other costs that must be recouped in your estimates. Cycle CPA is a remote bookkeeping and CFO firm that helps to connect the dots from the financial reports to the hardscape and landscape data needed in order to reach high profits. They provide landscape and hardscape industry benchmarking, job costing financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA's team of accountants are specialized within the hardscape and landscape industry, and you can visit them at cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. So then that initial consultation that you book with a client, do you charge for it? And if so, or if not, why or why not?
So the reason why I don't charge on my consultations, because like I said, I work in an area where there's so much competition that everybody out here gives free estimates, no matter what. We like just on Long Island alone, again, there's like almost 50 masons, 50 hardscapers who will go out there and they will, give a free estimate. They'll give them their time. My consultations take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how serious the job is. But it's very hard to charge for your consultation out here, unless you get like so seriously booked out. I know there's some people who, because I like networking, I like talking to other contractors and pick their brains and see how they do stuff. And they were contemplating on charging, but the thing is, that is a good way to separate the serious people, the serious customers, from the people who are just shopping. But I feel like it would hurt the business, especially in the market where I am.
Gotcha. And then when you do schedule that consultation and you meet the client and you've saved most of that conversation for that time with the client, what kind of questions are you asking them then to see whether or not they would be a good fit for Royal Stone, and to see what kind of features they want included into their project and design aspects and all that? How do you handle that initial consultation?
So the first thing is I walk in and I ask them, what do you want? So they tell me what they want. So I basically just repeat what they want back to them. And I feel like that's the best sales method there is. And then as we're walking along the project, they'll say, oh, I want a fireplace over here. I want some ceiling walls. I want this. And then I'll repeat that back to them and say, oh, yeah, that looks great. But I tell you what would look better is if we do it this way. And then I'll give them my ideas, and then I'll give them my design. And then they'll be like, oh, wow, we never thought of it like that. And then they'll have their questions. We'll go over everything, and then we'll sit down and I'll show them a couple of projects, what we've done similar. And then I'll go and measure the project right in front of them. I'll have my Cambridge book or my Nicolak book, depending on the product they want to use. And then we just go over everything. I'll give them a number, a price right there on the spot, because I'll figure everything out. And then that price is anywhere, say, this project could cost you anywhere between 40,000 to 50,000. And then underneath that, I'll write, like line items, or if you want to add a fire pit, it'd be X amount of dollars. If you want to do this, if you want to put light in, it'd be X amount of dollars. Then I would say, if you want to talk about design, you could do this whole project if you wanted to for this amount of dollars. So normally they'll just say, do everything for this amount of dollars, and everything's included. Lights, design, bench, everything. So I try and do that all in the estimate, all in the first consultation. And that's why, because a lot of contractors, they'll go home and they'll write everything out. But I have a family, and in my first year, it wasn't doing great because I was doing all these estimates, and I was coming home and I was doing the estimates, and I was like, I haven't got time for my personal life. I ain't got time for my family. So I started doing everything on site and on the estimates, because I did, as soon as I got home and I walked through that door, I just want to forget about work, because I need to decompress. And that's how I've been for the last 2.5 years in the business, because it was taking its toll. And that's one thing I'd like to touch on, like, because the stress and the micromanaging of yourself as the business, that's somewhat what has deeply affected me in this business, because you have to try and say, I gotta leave business over here and I gotta concentrate, because if not, it takes its toll. And I've seen that, like, with because I'm only 35, and I always, sometimes in this business you feel 20 years older, especially with the customers you meet, and like, how crazy some people can get. And it's like, I gave you the best job possible and you're still not happy. You can't please everyone. And that's some of what I always say to myself. I used to be a people person when I went into this business, but people really test your faith in this business. They test you, and it drives me crazy, honestly. But that's just how some people are.
Going on to, I guess we'll get into payment structure really quickly here. How do you break down your payment structure? Do you have a certain percentage down payment to get on the schedule? Do you leave a certain percentage at the end of the project? How do you go about that, or does it change depending on the job?
Well, so during COVID, I was taking deposits, from the customers just to pay for materials, because the materials were limited. And I was booking out 6 months in advance. So I had pavers sat on people's driveways or people's lawns for months, because I wanted to make sure when I got to that job, I prepared myself. because I kind of had an inkling. I knew this was going to happen. I knew this situation. You know, I always try and stay informed in the news and what's going off around the world, just so I'm better prepared for my business and better prepared for the future of the company. But from now on, all I do when we sign the contract, and I take 40% down, that's payment of materials. The materials will get delivered to you the very next day, depending if they're in stock or not. And then it's 30% when we start, and then 30% when we finish. Or it gets broken down depending on how long the job is. Some of my jobs are only a week long. Some of my jobs are 2 weeks.
So then I asked this next question because it's usually related, but it doesn't have to be. And that's, Shane, a horror story that you've experienced at your time in business. So the reason why I asked this is not to put you on the spot and burn you in any way, but to help those, especially younger contractors or people wanting to get into this business, to let them know that things can happen, do happen, and maybe help them put some guardrails in place. But Shane, do you have a horror story you'd want to share with us?
How much time do we have? I got so many horror stories in business. You know, I'm basically, 5 years, I guess, you know, coming up to 5 years next year, I think is pretty much my, in fact, no, it'll be 5 years this summer. That's my full 5 years. Like end of August is my full 5 years. So, but horror stories, I would suggest, we was building the Sunrise project. So the Sunrise project, I've been planning this project out with this customer. We did a higher tier level patio, and then the steps coming down, we created a sunrise as you go into the swimming pool. And the reason for this project is because they're overlooking this beautiful horizon where the sun actually rises. So it was a really, really nice project. So I had all the aerial plans, I had everything, the neighboring fence, you know, how I was going to build this project. And I planned it out so much. Anyway, it came to starting the project, and the first thing what had to be done, we had to build a retaining wall along the neighbor's fence. So I got the machines going by, and we got the Bobcat there, we're taking out the dirt, we're leveling out all the grade there. And then all of a sudden, I heard the neighbor say, "Oi, stop, what you doing? Stop what you're doing." So I popped my head over the fence, and I'm like, Jesus, it's almost a 10-foot drop into the neighbor's property. I didn't even know. I looked over the other neighbor's property, and they're almost level with the property where I'm working. But on the far corner, I didn't even know. He's like, "You're breaking my wall, stop what you're doing." So we all stopped what we're doing. And I went round to the neighbor, and I looked at this wall. He had this 8-foot, 8-inch cinder block wall, what must have been there since the Egyptians, because there was vines running through it. It was mold, and he's like, "This wall is breaking because of you. It's breaking because of you. You know, your machines have destroyed my wall." And I'm like, "Listen, buddy, you know, this wall's been up 60 years, you know. Does it help that we're working behind it? No, but you can't blame me for this wall falling down right now." And anyway, you know, it turned into a big fiasco. The neighbors were complaining. They're going to get the town involved, etc. I was going to lose money on this job regardless of what was going to happen. So I brokered a deal with the guy. I said, "You know what? You know, just pay me for the cement wall, pay me for the blocks, the materials. I'll build everything brand new for you free." So we took the fence down. We took his old wall down. We rebuilt it. I lost 4 days on the project, but that was a problem we overcome. And the thing is, that's part and parcel of the business. When you run into a problem, don't wait for it to fix itself, especially in the hardscape industry, because you'll lose money straight away. And that's what I've learned. Every time we've ran into a problem, we fix it right there on the spot. And that's what made me improve every single time we run into these problems. We fix it right there and then. We work out a solution, and then we move forward.
That's a good story and a good ending there to that. Just fix the problem right away, move on, right?
Yes.
Excellent, man. Well, I don't want to hold up to you too much longer, Shane. We're already at our hour here, but a few more questions. Feel free to take as much time as you want with these ones. I ask this to everybody. Installation practices that you live by, or equipment or tools that have helped you grow to where you are, or equipment and tools that you want to purchase in the near future. Whatever you want to talk about there, that's installation practices, equipment, tools, anything that you want to touch on there.
So installation practice, obviously, through my Instagram, I do have a lot of people reach out to me and say, why do you put it on concrete? So we do everything on concrete here on Long Island because that's so much easier and accessible to us to do concrete bases. It's a quick upsell to the customers that, strength, durability of the project, it lasts a lot longer. We make all our base like glass, and then we do, a minimal, quarter inch of sand over that, and then lay the pavers. So that's some of what we do, and it's some of what always been done here on the island. Is other contractors what do it. The thing is, what I do love about following other people online is obviously the open grade system. I do love that. I would love to try that very soon. It's just the fact is that it is very expensive. Bluestone chippings out here, because Long Island is just an island, so everything has to be shipped in. Everything has to be, trucked in. So that's the reason why it costs a lot more for stuff like that. But there is quarries and that out there what on the island. We started doing 3/4 chippings just out of concrete, but they're not exactly like the jagged edge that like bluestone. So obviously they're a little bit more smoother. So because they're smoother, they're not going to be interlock into each other. But I definitely want to try and do that. I got to find the right customer who's going to pay the upcharge for open grade. It's something I definitely want to go into. I want to be more efficient with the business. We're always improving the way we lay our projects. We're always looking to be different and improve. Equipment wise, I actually just bought my first machinery was an MT100 by Bobcat. And I feel like that was a lifesaver for digging out projects and getting in spaces around pools what are really tight next to fences. That really helped out. And then I just upgraded last year to a Bobcat T66. That's improved us, speed and excavating the jobs because we do everything in-house. I excavate, I demolition, build the projects, grade, level. We do everything in-house. So I want to definitely improve on that too. Maybe eventually get into building pergolas and building the whole outdoor kitchen because sometimes I do subcontract them out. Maybe have his own plumber on site because it takes forever to get a plumber around here. But this always improvement. I always want to improve our business all the time.
And anybody that you want to give a shout out here on the podcast, you've mentioned a couple names already, including Nick and Rocco there at NRX Landscaping. But anybody else that you look to for inspiration or have helped you along the way, whether that's online, offline, but anybody you want to give a shout out?
Well, there's so many big contractors in the off our Instagram. You got Sean from Premier. He's a great guy. I had the chance to meet him a couple of months ago. I was actually in New Jersey. I was driving by and I texted him and said, hey, do you mind if I stop by? And I thought I'd stop by and just see how he does everything. And I thought it was pretty cool. So I got to spend like 10, 15 minutes with him before I had to journey back to Long Island. But honestly, like the biggest shout out I really want to say is probably Charlie Taroso. He's actually Cambridge representative. He has been a big mentor of mine. And he's another reason why I got into the business because it was Valentine's Day of 2018. I was in CS. I was buying flowers and chocolates for my wife, and I bumped into him, and he was buying flowers and chocolates for his wife. So we got talking, and I says, "Oh, I've had enough of being with my boss, and I'm definitely gonna go on my own." And he encouraged me, and he invited me to a Cambridge show. And he says, "Come on down, you're gonna do great, trust me." And me and him have stayed really good friends. He's always on the phone. He's always giving me advice on new products, on ways I can do this way. He calls me the Michelangelo of pavers, which is funny. So. But he is such a great guy, and he's a great influence to have beside me and support, because he is a representative of Cambridge, and I really appreciate that guy. But the funny story is, because of that incident in CVS, I bought the flowers and I bought the chocolate. He actually bought it on his credit card. So he got into a lot of trouble when he went home, because he bought two bunches of flowers and 2 boxes of chocolate. So he had to explain to his wife who Shane is from Royal Stone.
That's awesome.
That's a funny story, because every single time I go to the showcase now, he introduces me to his bosses, the owners of Cambridge, as Shane. I bought him flowers. I got him, got me into trouble with my wife. So, but that's a funny story we have together, and it's a pleasure to know somebody like that in the business.
That's a great story. Shane, thank you so much for the time here today. I got one last question for you to end things off. It's a big one though, and feel free to take this personal, business related, wherever you want. But what is that one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning? And like I said, feel free to take that wherever you want. But what's that one thing you know now you wish you knew from the beginning?
How much to charge?
Yeah.
The one thing, really, honestly, that's a really tough question, because I feel like I had to fall and I had to stumble. I had to make mistakes to get to where I am. So everything I know now, I feel like it would never have helped in the beginning anyway, because that's the great thing about this business. And that's the great thing about being in the trades. It's very hard for people to replace the trades, because that's the thing what I actually want to touch on is AI now. So AI is a threat to everybody who's has an office job, or everybody. And the good thing about AI in hardscaping, you can't get a computer to put down pavers. So that's why I feel like in the future, trades is going to be even bigger than what they are today. And that's why I love this business. But from what I know, I won't change anything. I would not change it. I love the journey, what I've been on so far. I don't know everything, and I still love learning. And I love talking to people like yourself, talking to other contractors the way that they do it. I just love networking, and I'm excited to go to all these showcases, because that's what I love doing.
Absolutely. Shane, thank you so much for your time today and sitting down with me to do this. Where can our audience go to find out more about you? Where do you want to send them to?
Well, they can follow me on Instagram, Royal Stone Masonry 87. That's basically, I love Instagram. That's where they can follow us on.
Awesome. Shane, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Once again, reach out to Shane at Royal Stone Masonry 87 to see more of his work there on Instagram. And thank you to our sponsors, Inlight Outdoor Lighting. If you need outdoor lighting for your hardscapes, reach out to them. INLITE Design on Instagram, and Cycle CPA at Cycle CPA on Instagram. While you're there, give them a follow. They've got great accounting insights there, and you can always reach out to them at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for $200 off their services there. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.